This Daytona 500 Props Odds 2025 edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rebet, a new sports book available in 45 states. Download Rebet in your app store and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome into the only off-season NASCAR gambling pod, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, charging through when everybody else won't. No, I have much love for everybody else, and I get it. Yeah, I would actually love to enjoy a nice, luxurious vacation. However, that's just not how I'm wired. And Cody, thank God that's not how you're wired.
And there's nowhere to go, so that doesn't help. But here we are, Rod.
Here we are indeed. Yeah, there really isn't anywhere else to go. But here we are. We are charging through. We just got done with our Army Navy preview because, of course, as you haven't, if you didn't already know, if you're joining us for the first time, we are both veterans. I serve in the Army. Cody was in the Navy. So we did our Army Navy episode yesterday. Go check that out. It was a lot of fun to hash through a college football game for once. As like we know, there's no NASCAR going on. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. But there's still plenty to talk about because, Cody, Caesars continues to give us early Christmas presents in several props for the Daytona 500, which is how many days away now, Cody?
Yes, that's what I was going to say, Rod. The Army-Navy game this weekend, the fantasy football playoffs begin today in most leagues. And that means, Rod, that racing is just around the corner. Only 66 days until the Daytona 500, which means only 52 days until the Clash of the Coliseum, which means about 47 days or so until we're placing bets on the Clash of the Coliseum, Clash of the Coliseum. I've gotten so used to saying that over the last couple of years. The Clash at Bowman Gray this season, Rod, of course. But yeah, very, very excited. And yeah, shout out to Caesars again, killing it in the prop market. They're going to keep us busy here for a while. There's probably going to be 2 episodes at least of us talking through these Daytona 500 props. And there's a ton of season-long props as well that we're going to get to here in the near future also.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun breaking down all of these props because I guarantee right now the early bird will get the good worms because I guarantee you that these lines probably will not stay the same maybe a month from now, certainly not when qualifying starts. So if you believe like we believe in some of these, then you will be able to jump in a little early and get some halfway decent value. Or, of course, we tell you and caution you to stay away from those in which we think are going to get better for you later on, which is why we talk about these early props because they give them to us. Might as well talk them through because there's always some good value in and around these odds. So that's what we're here to do, and that is what we will do today. But in the meantime, download the SGPN app, my friends. It's completely free. You got easy access to all of our shows, not just the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, but fantasy football, like you said. Playoffs are starting now. You may need some help with those lineups. Old Fashioned Fantasy has got your back with that. Justin and Murr talking fantasy football. And then, of course, the college football experience, helping you break down all of those bowl games and all of the betting angles for all of the championship bracket games. And I don't even want to pay attention to it because I hate the teams that are in there. And my team's not, so I don't give a rat's ass about college football playoffs. I just care about the next couple of weeks for Army. But make sure you go download that app. It's free wherever you get all of your apps. And it's got our picks pages and everything you need in there. So go download the SGPN app.
Yes, it is a great place to have to go, Rod, rather, I guess. And then if you didn't know, Rod, there's also a newsletter that goes out via email weekly for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Make sure you go to the website, just scroll all the way down to the bottom, and it'll prompt you to sign up down there. Put your email in. It sends an email every week, and it's a little expensive, Rod. FREE, of course, being the price, same as everything else on this network. But yeah, there's some pretty good stuff in there. It gives you little like snippets of things from the website, and then you can obviously click on the links in the email to read the rest of the article on that if you're interested in that topic. And then also sometimes we'll have small write-ups for things that are just in the email, which is often I have things in there, so pretty cool. But wanted to make sure people were aware of that. Go sign up on that and stay up to date on your gambling news, Rob.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, so we're here to talk about props. We've already talked about some of the Daytona 500 winners. If you missed that one, scroll back up in your feed a little bit and find the Daytona 500 winning odds and all of our picks for that. But today we'll talk about some props. Like Cody said, I mean, look, they're going to keep us busy for a while as Caesars. They're giving us top threes. They're giving us any to win the race, either to win the race, exactas, quinellas, both to finish top three, and so on and so forth. Odd number cars, groups, winning car numbers, drivers to win the pole, manufacturers in the top 10. Lots and lots to talk about, but we'll just dive into, I guess, the top of these and just sort of break down a few of them. We'll start with the top threes because I feel like that's a really good place to start. Like I said, we've already talked about some of the winners, but some of these guys in the top three, obviously, we're going to be considered for winners as well. And with the nature of these super speedways, some of these long shot top threes actually really have me licking my chops because with winners, you're only picking the one guy to win the race, right? And it's tough because you're like, yeah, he could probably hang around the front. He could be a top three car, but I don't know if he can win the race. In this instance, it's like, yeah, he could be a top three car. Let's go. This is a perfect opportunity for us to jump in on some long shot drivers.
Yeah, and if you look at, throughout the history of super speedway racing, it sucks to be on the side of having Kyle Busch or Ryan Blaney at Atlanta this past season when they were so close to winning, literally so close, and just missed out on it. So it is nice to have that top three insurance on a driver if you've got their outright, as I throw things around at my desk here, Rod. Whoops. But yeah, again, they don't have to win. It opens up a couple of other spots. If it's a guy that can be there at the end, have a chance to get it done, they can get it done. So, yeah, top three, obviously top 5 and top 10, stuff that we're going to be targeting as well. Those aren't available quite yet. But top three is you can get some pretty good value on at this point in time.
And I'm really hoping that the top 10 numbers are not nuked to the point where we can't really touch them. We've seen that a few times in super speed.
I got some probably bad news for you, Rod.
I know they'll be nuked, but we'll still find value because that's what we do on this show. First and foremost, I want to welcome into the chat real quick. I asked the question, can Jimmie Johnson score a top 10 finish at the Daytona 500? Andrew promptly saying, no, Rod. And this is a holdover from last season. Obviously, if you're brand new to the show, I love Jimmie Johnson. He's my favorite driver. And every chance I got, I would bring his name up on the broadcast. Always to our detriment because he never finished inside of the top 10. But
let's see, this is where you have to differentiate things, right? Because when you bring him up to finish in the top 10 at Kansas or somewhere like that, not a good idea. Rod tried to warn you against that. You didn't listen to me, but that's okay. But at a super speedway, like we've seen, anybody's got a chance. And Jimmie, I would say maybe his chances is a little increased if you look at the fact that he's done it before, right? He's won Daytona 500s. I believe he's got multiple of those. And he's been a good super speedway driver throughout his career. Obviously, he doesn't do it all the time anymore, so that takes away a little bit. But he is one of the most experienced, and I mean, I think we're both on the same page as far as he's the greatest driver in NASCAR history. You're putting that guy out there. Sure, he doesn't have the equipment in the car and the ability to compete at the level he once did, but in a super speedway race where things are equalized out, he certainly could make the right moves, maybe know more so than a lot of other drivers how to be able to navigate those types of situations, because he's seen it all, done it all at this point. And so, yeah, I think that a top 10 finish, and obviously, it would depend on what the odds are and all sorts of stuff like that, which we'll get into later. But this is, if you're going to bet Jimmie Johnson somewhere, this is where it's okay to bet him, Rod.
I agree. Although
and then when Rod tries to talk us into it somewhere else, we're going to say, no, Rod, we don't bet on Jimmie Johnson outside of super speedways. Then, it's not going to be good for him. But super speedways is where you can bet.
I don't care. I'm going to bet Jimmie wherever I want to bet Jimmie, okay? It's my money. All right, speaking of your money, Kyle Busch, top of the list for a top 3, plus 285. No surprise, though, because he is one of the favorites to win this race. I think if not the favorite on Caesars as well to win this race. He is at 10-1, but plus 285 for a top 3. I mean, look, we made a very strong case for him to be able to win this race. You are very high on it. He did finish second here in the fall last season, 12th in the Daytona 500, 7th in the fall of the season before that. I mean, we know that Kyle Busch has been a hair away from winning a super speedway race. Not even a hair, probably whatever smaller than a hair away from winning Atlanta super speedway last year. So, like you said, if you are scared of placing an outright, these top 3 markets are probably the way to go, because if you think Kyle Busch is going to win this race, stands to reason to probably be in the top 3. And so a plus 285, that's not a bad number. I wish it would better, but for a top 3, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, and that's sort of where you just have to decide, even if you do take his outright, it's not bad to have a little insurance, but then keep in mind, it is a super speedway, get caught up in something and not finishing or close, right? So that's sort of the risk you take at the bottom. But I would say that, these first handful of drivers really, it's all sort of the same argument that we made for them to win the Daytona 500. They're all favorites for a reason. They're all really good at super speedways. Things don't always go their way. But if you like them, then these are the guys you would bet. So, looking down through the board, I don't know that there's anybody I'm super interested in at the top until we get to maybe a Chris Busch or a plus 450. Surprise, right? RFK guy. Apparently that's going to be my team this year, Rod. But, not to jump too far ahead, but I think that maybe, unless you have thoughts on any of these other guys, sort of read them off, but kind of skip past them, because I just don't know that there's a ton of value for where they're at with their number.
Well, I feel like, so we'll owe it to the audience to at least give us this. It's Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, all at plus 350. So all of these guys are all at plus 350. And, we've talked about Ryan Blaney, obviously, at length, and knowing that he is solid all kinds of places, but not really solid at Daytona. So, I mean, even a top 3 for Ryan Blaney at Daytona doesn't really interest me. Denny Hamlin intrigues me, but we talked about it in the betting episode. He's not necessarily where we want him to be. And I think even a top 3 is,
and he's not been great at super speedways lately. He's been one of the best over the years. 3 Daytona 500 wins to his name, which is elite company, obviously, but lately it's not been as good for Denny. So another guy that you sort of pause on and don't really love the number 4 it's at.
No. JDK saying that KFB is boosted at plus 1,400 on Bet365 to win. That's a pretty big boost.
Something I'd maybe consider getting invested in now, because you look at Caesars, he's only 10-1. I think that some other places had him at 12-1, but the number probably won't come down too much more, but getting him at 14 now compared to a 10 later, I do like that a little bit, especially at a track like this where things can go horribly wrong, obviously. Maybe he doesn't start well and you'll get an opportunity, a bigger number, but probably not going to see much better than 14-1. And man, I don't think that I could live with myself to not be holding a KFB ticket when he does finally win the Daytona 500 round.
Yep, that's the one that's eluding him the most. And so we've got to, you got to load up now, because the chances are getting smaller and smaller as he continues to fade deeper and deeper into the rear view mirror. Although I'm aging these guys and retiring these guys before they're even there. But Joey Logano, talked about it before. It's an odd year, so I'm going to count him out for anything good. And especially at plus 350, I'm not necessarily comfortable taking him there. And Brad Keselowski, I know you love your RFK. I would probably say yes to this one. But we also did kind of talk about how Brad Keselowski is for me, it's not very comfortable. He only has one win on this track in 31 tries, 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s. That's just on this track in total. That's not in the Daytona 500 as a whole. That's just on this track. And so he did have an 8th place here in the fall, but 33rd in the 500 before that, 2nd in the fall. He's much better in the fall race, 22nd in the 500. And 9th in his best finish in the 6 car is a 9th place finish in 2022. So, I mean, I'm not comfortable as a top 3 with Brad Keselowski either because of that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think the number's just not quite big enough. And again, very good at super speedways, more so obviously at Talladega where he's got all the wins. But I don't think the number's quite big enough for a guy that is pretty inconsistent. And with Keselowski, he's very good at them and can win, but he also wrecks a lot, which can be somewhat troublesome.
Yep, it is for sure. So, all right, we'll talk down the board a little bit more, but I want to take this opportunity to tell you about Underdog. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports. You can win up to 1,000 times your money with Underdog streaks. Plus, Underdog's always making it easier to win with profit boosts and gimme pick'ems. That's NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, Formula One, which I know wrapped up its season, but we'll get back into the full swing of things. And so you'll want to be there for that as well. And much, much more. You can now use all of your specials and boosts on all of your flexed entries. Told you Army Navy happening this weekend. I'm using my Underdog Pick'em pick for Kanye Udo, the running back for the Black Knights. Higher than 69.5 rushing yard. This dude is part of the powerhouse of the running game of the Army football team. And as you know, Army runs the ball. So give me Kanye Udo higher than 69.5 rushing yards for that. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. It's underdogfantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. We're brought to you by Rebet. Rebet is a new social sports book available in 45 states. Plenty of betting opportunities are available on Rebet. It's easy to use, and it's great for people in states where traditional sports books may be restricted. Looking at you, California. Download Rebet in the App Store. Use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's Rebet, promo code SGPN. So we spent a little bit of time talking over the upper part of the board, and really, Cody, the value, we're hunting for value, and that's really what we always try to do on this show. We're not just trying to give you the favorite picks and say, these are the ones to take, because more often than not, we know that the favorites, especially on a super speedway, may not be the best plays and the most valuable plays for you. And anybody can tell you to go bet Joey Logano or whatever on a week-to-week basis, right? You got to find the other people out there that are going to be able to turn a little more profit for you and are the ones that you really want to target. So that's what this show is all about, and that's always what we try to do, which is why we didn't spend 20 minutes a piece on each one of these top guys, because, the resumes already say, or they already speak for themselves.
Yeah, and we do go more into depth on the Daytona 500 outright odds, especially on the top of the board here. So, go back and listen to that show from... Was that earlier this week, Rod? That was Monday, I believe. It feels like a long time ago, but it was Monday. So go back and listen to Monday's show. If you want more in-depth thoughts on these drivers and what they've done lately and what they can do more for you. But I think it's better to kind of slide down the board a little farther. Like I said, Chris Buescher, plus 450 is kind of the first guy that jumps out to me. He's a pretty solid super speedway guy. Of course, we just talked about Brad Keselowski, his teammate. They often work really well together. They're adding a third car to that group this year with Ryan Preece. Who knows? Maybe David Reagan makes another comeback in a fourth car. Probably not. I haven't heard much about that, but you never know. He's been pretty solid at Daytona, 10th here in the fall, 18th in last year's 500, one here in the fall of 23, fourth in the fall, or in the 500 rather, in 23. Couple of decent finishes before that. Had a third place finish here back in 2020 as well. Couple of fifth place, seventh place finishes prior to that, back in just the Roush Fenway days. But he's a guy that I really like on super speedways, does pretty well. And, if Keselowski is going to win, this is one of the favorites, right? There's a good chance that he and Buescher have hooked up and they're, pushing each other. If Buescher pushes Keselowski to the win, then he's going to cash that top 3 for you. And you're getting a little bit of a bigger number, obviously, on him than Brad. If Brad was down here at plus 450, it's only 350 to 450, but it does sort of make a bit of a difference here, I think.
Yeah, and you're high, man. You're so high on RFK. Sorry, I shouldn't have paused there, but
that was a weird place to pause, right?
Well, but no, look, I know that there's so much love in there. I still don't necessarily understand it. Maybe everybody out there that also believes in RFK that much can help me understand it, because I just don't know. They're a fun team to cheer for, but they just don't get it always done in the clutch moments. And maybe it's just because
I can't come in here and be on a team that's already getting it done, Rod. This is my sleeper team. They're going to come out of nobody sees it coming. That's the point. You don't see it coming, but they're going to come. They're going to okay, never mind.
Wow, we are
that came out really weird. Let's maybe take that part out of the podcast.
It's too late. It's already out there in the ether. But no, look, I understand. And I one hope that the sleeper team does come through, because I think RFK now, especially since they were adding a third car, and that could be another instance, right, where now they have 3 cars to help in the draft and not just 2. So they're not necessarily all that out in a lurch. But yeah, look, I'm with you as far as
then,
I hope that
Buescher top 3. I'm not betting it today at plus 450. Just kind of the first guy as we go that stops and catches my eye and is like, okay, this is where I sort of want to start looking for guys, Rob.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes more sense then. And that'll work for me. We already talked about William Byron, the reigning champion on this one at plus 400. Still feel like that's a little bit too juicy. I think for me, and we talked about him on the show overall, people are going to be looking at guys like Michael McDowell at 7-1 because they think that he's really good at super speedways. But we talked about it too, in that it's deceiving, because Michael McDowell, you think about his great finish and you think about the one where he came through and that's all you think about. But then you look back at his last few times on this track: 39th in the fall of 2021, 32nd in the fall of 2022. He did have a 7th place finish in the 2022 Daytona 500, but since then on this track, 18th, 13th, 36th, 30th. He did start on the pole on the in the fall race, but 30th place finish. He does not get it done when it comes to finishing on this track. And there's no way I'm touching a top 3, even as much as everybody wants to try to convince you that Michael McDowell is going to be a solid driver on this track.
Yeah, it's just he's capable of getting it done, right? And that's why he won a Daytona 500, obviously. But he's not consistently finishing really well at this type of track or at Daytona. So, yeah, I agree with you there.
All right. So look, not to spend all day on these top 3s because we very much could. So
let me go back up one more guy that I actually want to bet on right now, Rod. Plus 550. It's Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is really good at Daytona, and he's actually extremely good in the 500, Rod. You look back at last year, he finished 5th in the 500, 6th place in the fall race here. Go back to 2023, 12th and 20th. But 2022, 2nd in the 500. 11th then in the fall. Go back to 2021, another 2nd place finish, and 17th in the 500 then. A 5th place finish in 2020. He had another 2nd place finish back here in 2018 in actually his first Daytona 500 start. So Bubba Wallace really good at, and we've seen obviously he's got the win at Talladega. Good at getting to the end of these super speedway races, being in the mix. Plus 550. I feel like if there was one guy I was going to bet on in this kind of favorite under 10-1 range, Bubba Wallace is the guy I'd be betting on today.
Yeah, I'm with you on Bubba, because he does stand out, especially in the top 5 market, because there's a lot of guys out there that don't have nearly as many top 5s as he does. So I like that. Buescher top 5, there's no top 5s yet.
Yeah, there's no top 5. So the top 3s are really the only thing that's out as far as positional. There's multiple drivers to finish in the top 10 and stuff like that, but as far as top 3, top 5, top 10, top 3 is the only thing that's out currently.
One other that I will toss out, and that is Ty Gibbs. I cannot believe that they have Ty Gibbs at 10-1.
Who, Rod? Who are you picking?
This guy that I supposedly hate. I don't know where that came from. I call it like I saw it, and I saw it quite a bit last year that Ty Gibbs was in a sophomore slump. Now, guess what? He's not a sophomore anymore. This is his third year in, and he's actually building off at least a 5th place finish here in the fall. So there is momentum there. And I think 10-1, especially when we talk about these other Gibbs cars, right? I mean, Denny Hamlin is at plus 350 for this one as well. Christopher Bell plus 550, right? Those are 2 of his teammates. He is almost twice both of his teammates out there. And Chase Briscoe, even his brand new teammate, is at 7-1. The fact that Ty Gibbs is 10-1 for a top 3 is highly mispriced. If you think the rest of these guys are going to be good, I think Ty can be just as good, if not better than at least Briscoe and Bell, if we're being completely honest, on this track. So yeah, I like Ty Gibbs at 10-1. That's a really good value for him as a top 3 car.
Yeah, I like Ty as well. Obviously, you know how big I am on Imrod. Somebody I like a little bit more, though, 12-1. AJ Allmendinger secretly extremely good at super speedways and really good at Daytona, Rod. 6th place here in last year's Daytona 500, 6th place in the 2023 Daytona 500. Hadn't run on the track prior to that in the Cup Series since 2018. Oh yeah, he finished 3rd place there in the fall, 10th place that spring in the 500, 8th place in the fall of 2017, 3rd place in the Daytona 500 in 2017. So really, really good finishes from AJ Allmendinger here recently. And you kind of go back throughout his entire career, and, you know, he was 3rd in the 500 back in 2009 in the 44 Richard Petty Motorsports Dodge, even, Rod. He's had a really strong career at super speedways. We've seen that in the Xfinity Series as well. Coming back to the Cup Series full-time this season. So, yes, I do at 12-1. Really like that for AJ. Now, that's probably not a number that you have to bet today, right? I think that as we get closer to the 500, you're still going to get an opportunity to get that number. Good chance that that's going to be on my card, especially top 5 really is probably I'm going to like a little bit more depending where the number is at. But yeah, I do like him top 3. Boji Joe checking in, Rod. Says, hello, boys. Missed you guys. Jess says hi, too. Hi, Jess. Hi, Boji Joe. Boji Joe wants to did Rod just say Jimmie Johnson? He never stops. And Boji Joe also saying, go Rams, take him on the money line tonight.
I want him to go ahead and be banned. I love you, Boji Joe.
Rod's a 49ers fan. I wrote the preview, sportsgamblingpodcast.com article over there for the game tonight. And, you know, I went into the research, Rod, thinking you got to pick the Rams, right? Like, look at how things have been going lately. Not good for the 49ers. The Rams coming off beating the Bills, but I went with the 49ers, Rod. So
that's a good man.
I think it's going to be a 49er evening.
I do love you, Boji Joe, for sure. I'm telling you right now, I don't agree with the Rams money line, but that's right. And look, for those of you keeping score, Jimmie Johnson, 30-1 for a top 3 finish. His teammates as well are 14-1 for John Hunter and 14-1 for Eric Jones. So there's a little bit of Legacy Motor Club odds for you as well. All right, we're going to step away, and then we are going to come back and go over some of the other bets that are out there, some of the other props that are out there, and give you some more of our favorites as we always do. But first, let me tell you about MyBookie. We're brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie has been running on SGPN for years. You could check out their new and improved website, which, by the way, looks great on mobile. Plus, they got props for every game and the live dealer casino, even new early cash out options. Gotta love MyBookie for all kinds of crazy stuff that they've got going on right now. It is NFL season on there, and you can actually get in on some of the great NFL action where they've got the Niners -2.5 over the Los Angeles Rams -120. I love that. And yeah, I mean, Niners -2.5. -120. Grab that over there on MyBookie right now. Head to MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You can build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or you can just have Rhythm predict a model for you and build it for you. You can also track props in the Rhythm app. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, and NBA. Rhythm has it all. Totally used that to build my my case for the Kanye Udo underdog pick, because I'm telling you right now, I knew he was going to get a lot of yards, but the model was like, yep, he's going to go much higher than 69.5 yards. So give me that one. Thank you, Rhythm. Thank you for all the cash. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Cody. Well, so that means legacy means past tense. Boji Joe saying, Boji just twisted the knife in there, isn't he? All right. So look, they've got any to win the race. All right. And this is where it kind of gets interesting, because if you are not confident on your straight up outright pick, there are combinations of drivers, and it's 3 drivers that you can use, and it's any to win the race. And it's obviously slightly lesser odds. It's about a third of the odds on most of these guys. So, I mean, a lot of these involve Kyle Busch, though, and Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin. So it's any combination of just about all of these top drivers. And really, for you, it's just a matter of where you feel comfortable. Is there one of these combos, Cody, that makes you feel warm and fuzzy that you might want to take?
Yeah, so there's about 10 options over here on Caesars. Like you said, it's very heavily Busch, Keselowski, Hamlin dominated. Plus 340 is the biggest option you're getting. Plus 310 is the lowest option. I don't know that there's a combination on here where it's like, oh yeah, I really feel like all 3 of these. I guess if I had to pick one, it's probably Busch, Keselowski, Ryan Blaney. I think that would probably be the combo, and that's plus 310. Because you're getting, look, Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski are 2 of the guys that have been in this sport for a while. They have very good legacies that they are continuing to build on, right? But part of the thing that's missing from their legacy is the Daytona 500 wins. Busch has been close many times. Keselowski's had his chances. Michael McDowell race potentially could have been a Keselowski win, right? So, and we know that they're both good at super speedways. Ryan Blaney, obviously very good at super speedways now, more so at Talladega and even at the new Atlanta than Daytona, but he's very capable of getting it done. So I think if I had to pick one of these, plus 310, it would be Busch, Keselowski, and Ryan Blaney. But I got to say that I don't love any of these. Plus 310, I know that it gives you 3 bullets in the chamber, and that's probably the attractive part of this, right? Because then you don't have to just bet each guy individually. But I don't know that the number is big enough to make me want to love it.
Yeah, give me other combinations that involve some of these other guys, and maybe I'll get it. Because I mean, I would take like a Kyle Busch. I guess you could throw Chris Buescher in there as well, and maybe a guy like Tyler Reddick in there.
RFK. I guess you can probably just bet RFK to win the race. But I was going to say, do the RFK trio since I'm all over them, Rod. Yeah, I sort of wish you could get some longer shots in this and maybe get a bigger, juicier number, but they probably also don't wish that they had that, which
they're not.
Don't, because that would be what we would be attacking. So, yeah, again, that's probably the trio I would take if I was going to, but I'm not really loving this section of things.
Yeah, again, they're so heavy on Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski, and yeah, those are the 2 that probably need to win this race. But you know, you throw in a guy like Joey Logano. I'm not interested in Logano. There's a Keselowski, Hamlin, Logano one. Definitely not interested in that. Keselowski, Logano, Blaney. I mean, any one of them with Logano in it already turns me off. And then Denny Hamlin doesn't make me feel any better either. So not loving it there. They are giving you an either to win the race. So you can get either driver of these 2 to get there. I know that the top of the board is Ryan Blaney or Kyle Busch at 5-1. So that one's a little interesting. But like you said, Ryan Blaney's not necessarily been the best on this track lately. In fact, he's only got 1 win on this track, and that was in a fall race. Since then, the last 3 races on this track, 36th, 30th, and 29th, including that 30th at the 2024 Daytona 500. He has DNF'd in 9 of 19 starts on this track as Ryan Blaney. So it's tough to take anything for him as an outright, but any of these either to win.
That also means that he's made it to the end in 10 of them, which is not real. Like, at a super speedway, that's not crazy bad numbers. But yeah, I get what you're saying. The Keselowski Kyle Busch one also at 5-1 to be much more attractive than Blaney Busch, in my opinion. Again, top of the board on this. There is more options on this one as you go a little farther down, which is where it starts to get slightly more attractive, maybe. But yeah, top of the board's tough. Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, and Boji Joe was asking if there's Chris Buescher talk yet. There was. Go back, listen to the start of the show. I've been very big on RFK this off season. But Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott at plus 750, starting to maybe pique my interest a little bit there. Because Buescher's 16-1 outright, and Elliott's 16-1. So it's almost like
half, essentially.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess makes sense, right? But you probably just bet them individually by themselves. It depends if you want less things at risk, and just lump them together here. I guess you're getting the smaller number you're covered in either one. But yeah, again, nothing too much about this section really jumps out or screams like, oh, you got to go bet this.
Well, Ty Gibbs or Tyler Reddick. I think that's one where I would stop for a half a second. Tyler Reddick
is
not been good on this one.
No, he's not been good really at super speedways in general. Now I know he won at Talladega last year, but that was like sort of out of the blue because it was like, whoa, Tyler Reddick, where'd he come from? He'd not really shown any prowess on super speedways in a general sense. I mean, and yeah, you look through his results here, and he's not really been super good. I mean, he won a dual race last year, great, but he has that 1 second place in 22, but that was, again, that rain race where everybody wrecked out. 5th place in 21. So there's been some upside, but a lot of 28, 29, 27, 35, 39, 29, 28. Like, overall, it's not really been great for Reddick.
I love Boji Joe asking me now, is this going to be a Gibbs breakout year? I already said it. Like, I didn't mean to hate on him last year, but he had to. So I think he's going to be good.
He was on the win totals, right? Yeah, we talked about him on the win total episode. That's where missed on Reddick. What did we miss on Reddick? We were spot on Reddick last year, Boji Joe. I mean, not at Talladega, maybe, but the rest of the season, yes. But the Gibbs deal, we were, I'm very, very bullish on his outrights wins this year. He's going to cross that 100 start mark that I think is very, very key. So pretty excited for his year.
All right, so we'll put to bed the either win.
Boji Joe saying we missed out on the champ. Like, we missed out because it didn't cash, yes, but missed out on calling it correctly, we did not. 16-1. He was in the Final Four. He was a regular season champ. Like, we had the right track. It was a good bet. It didn't cash. I get it, but not all good bets cash.
Not all dogs go to heaven. All right,
well,
let's. Well, that's what the movie says, anyways. Let's go over some of these Quinellas and these exactas. The exactas. There's 133 exactas. Obviously, not going to read through all of these interesting ones.
You're not?
Well, I could. We got all day, I suppose. There is a Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski exacta in that order. Kyle Busch first, Brad Keselowski second at 70-1.
See, this is where it gets it, because you're getting 70-1 is where we start in these, Rod, which is so like, okay, this is where you start just firing off bullets of, now they have to finish exactly how, exacta, obviously you got to finish exactly how you have them first and second, but this is where it's fun to start laying some bullets at 70-1.
Yep. So like I said, there's a Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski 71, and then flip it around, Keselowski and Busch at 7-1. Those two already make me feel like that's fun to sort of break up a unit and try to make some money there. Anything else in this that has you because like you said, 71 is where you start. I mean, there's a Bubba Wallace Kyle Busch one at 100-1.
It's interesting. Was there, I was looking for Buescher.
There's a Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher one. First Kyle Busch, second Buescher at 90-1.
Is there Buescher Keselowski? That's what I would like.
Buescher Blaney.
Either way. Although I would want Keselowski. I would want Keselowski Buescher. Of course, there's not. Why don't they give us what we want, Rod?
There it is right there. Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski. Is that 1,000-1? plus 1,000 or
Can we
10,000.
get Keselowski first or no?
You can get Keselowski Cindric. You can get Keselowski. Boy,
Keselowski Cindric is interesting.
Keselowski Bell. Keselowski Wallace at 125 to 1.
Although I sort of like matching up manufacturers a little more in this, just because we've seen, obviously, it's been made sort of a big deal. Stick with your manufacturer, push your manufacturer. Now, that doesn't always, a lot of times you have side-by-side finishes, so it's not always going to be that way. But I think that there might be more cases, especially after the Parker Retzlaff thing, and then we saw manufacturers going as far as manipulating races later on for playoff purposes. But, Keselowski is just, man. Again, I'm just so on RFK, Rod. I'm gonna have the RFK colored glasses for a while, I think. But yeah, Keselowski Buescher I would definitely consider, because those guys just work so well together. We've seen them finish 1-2 at Daytona before. I was just trying to scroll through here and see some other ones. Are there any other ones that jump out to you, Rod?
Well, and so I was looking around and, at some of the guys that we think are going to win this race, and really Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, I think I said that at 100 to 1, is a good one. If you think that manufacturers are going to be good, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, 125 to 1. That could be a good one. Bubba Wallace.
And Denny would certainly push, like Denny's won 3 of them. So he would certainly push Bubba in the car that he owns to the win.
Yeah. So
there's Keselowski Buescher. 100 to 1. They buried it way down there, Rod. That's one that I would bet today, because I really like that one. Keselowski 1, Buescher 2.
Oh, there it is.
Because if they get in that position, Buescher knows what winning a 500 would mean to Keselowski. He would push him. Yeah, 100 to 1. I do like that. Man, they've got just about every combination. I mean, there's literally, there is a ton of these in here. Is there a Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney one?
I believe I saw, there's Bubba Chris Buescher, Bubba Christopher Bell at 200 to 1.
Why do you keep trying to push Christopher Bell so hard, Ron? Oh, he's the one that's really good here that I kept thinking wasn't good, isn't he?
Remember? Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, 125 to 1. Ooh, best friends there. Yep. I'm interested in that. Yeah, there's definitely some. I mean, really, there's not really any super bad combinations. I mean, just pick a couple guys you like and bet on a couple of these. There's even some 200 to 1s, like you mentioned before, like Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace. If you think Kyle Larson's going to win one, Larson Wallace is 175 to 1. Buescher Bubba is interesting at 175 to 1. Yeah,
I will say though that the exactas are fun, but if you really want, I mean, look, the Quinellas, the Keselowski Buescher is still 50 to 1 on that.
And so, like, you know how bad it would hurt, Rod, to get them correct as finishing 1-2 and have the order wrong.
Oh, that would be so heartbreaking.
But
yeah, I mean, so you can take these. So like I said, you could take that Keselowski Buescher one and just take a reduction in it, and you're not trying to nail the exact order and just get the Quinella in that one. Yeah. Either one of them can finish 1-2 and you still get 50 to 1 on that number. So that's a good deal. Guys like we were talking about Kyle Busch and let's see, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, 30 to 1. Kyle Busch, Keselowski, 30 to 1 as well on that one. Keselowski Blaney, 40 to 1. So there's some good combinations in that Quinella as well. In fact, we know that is it JDK or Boji Joe love those Quinellas. It's not. This is a way to kind of make it if you know where you're leaning and I'm sorry, not where you're leaning, where you are favoring and which direction you want to go. So I definitely like that. Is there any other Quinellas, Cody, that's jumping out at you right now?
Yeah, I mean, just sort of really just pair any of the guys that we've already talked about. I mean, is kind of the way that I would approach it. I do like, obviously, I like the Quinellas better than the exactas. You're not getting as big of a number. But you're still getting really good numbers, and you don't have to pick the order like that. I think that really does mean a lot. So you can get like a Keselowski Elliott at 50-1. That's pretty solid. Where's the other one that I just saw that I was liking? I lost it.
Bush Byron at 40-1 is actually a pretty interesting.
That's an interesting one. I saw Byron Elliott. That was, I think, 50-1. That one's sort of interesting. They're both really good super speedway guys. If they're clean at the end, pushing each other maybe to the win, you could see that being one that would do good. Elliott Wallace at 80-1. I actually like that a lot. Those guys are, the Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, best friends, but like Chase Elliott's kind of the third wheel in that as well. So I don't mind that number at 80-1.
Wallace Bell's at the bottom of this at 100-1. That's actually not a bad.
That's a pretty good number for. And again, like we've highlighted, Wallace is pretty good here. Bell's pretty good here. They're both in the Toyota camp, so you get the teammate aspect from that part of things. That things like that definitely make it at 100-1. And again, they could finish either way in this Quinella. So I do like stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, just to get back to the Christopher Bell part, Christopher Bell has finished third place here in 3 of the last 4 races. Yeah, it's not second place, but all it would take is for a breath.
Or third, you can finish second.
Yeah, every single time. So definitely looking good there. All right, let's draw the line here. Let's stop here. There's still plenty more to get to. There's probably 2 more episodes out of this that we can take, but really, honestly, guys, this episode in general is prop awareness. It's a prop awareness episode. We're just bringing it to your attention that there is opportunity out there to start talking NASCAR betting, and if you want to place these early bets, some of the directions that you can put yourself in there now if you're trying to build your 2025 card out early. So yeah, just consider this a prop awareness episode. And really, we're just giving you a direction and sending you off to be able to build your own cards out. Not necessarily giving the official picks yet, because that doesn't come until our episode. But, it's good to know now that the options are out there. And that's why the books are giving it to us, because we cried for it. And we said, please give it to us early. And so they've given it to us early. And it would be a shame for us to ignore that and to just let it sit there without you guys knowing that it's out there. So, prop awareness. I should have named the episode Prop Awareness, but I didn't. Yeah. All right. So Cody, I think this is a good place to kind of, push the pause button.
I agree. Let's push the pause button. We'll pick her back up later, Rob.
We will indeed. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us in the chat live as you always do. Thanks for downloading these episodes, even in the off season, because again, like we said, this is, we can't get away from this microphone, and unfortunately, that's just where my ass is stapled now. So when I turn off this camera, I just never leave this place. So thank God that you guys still watch, so I can continue to stay.
God doesn't even have legs anymore. He just stays in that one spot.
No legs. There's just nothing underneath this. So all right. Well then, Cody, let's send everybody out to start filling out their cards and enjoy the weekend, because this is the last episode for the week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, of course, with a couple more episodes. Make sure, if you haven't yet, go back and listen to yesterday's episode, the Army-Navy game. It was a lot of fun doing that. Obviously, again, Rod is in the Army. I was in the Navy, so we already have the natural rivalry. We both come at it from our own sides, right? Along as working some other, totals and stuff like that into the game as well. It was a lot of fun, and it was a full pick show like we do every week for NASCAR, right? We picked a bunch of props, winners, spreads, all sorts of stuff, had some ladders in there, D-Gen's only plays. So go back, check it out. It was a lot of fun, and I know we're both excited for that game this weekend. Of course, it's going to be a lot of fun to see Navy beat the Army. So, Rod, in the meantime, follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. Got a ton of stuff out. NFL previews keep coming out, NFL picks. There's NASCAR articles, maybe some F1 IndyCar articles coming soon. Other stuff in the works for sure. So check all that out over there on the X at Husker_Zeeb. Give the show a follow as well at NASCAR Gambling. Make sure you go over and like our Facebook page as well, trying to grow that. So we appreciate it. Whew, that was a lot, Rod. I'm done. We'll see you guys next week.
We will see you guys next week. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. There's a link in the bottom, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it is, of course, hey, listen, I just posted out there my Call of Duty League picks for the games this weekend. So if you like esports, if you like Call of Duty, go check it out there. Boji Joe wants to know how come microphones are never brown or white. There are some out there, but radio industry standard is this nice, sleek black microphone. Prop bets for tonight game.
Go check out. Rod and I both have articles over on different places. So go check out our X's to find those. Not our X's, but our accounts on X to find those. I've got the Thursday night preview article for commandment.podcast.com. Prop I really like in there, so go check that out. I believe you had first touchdowns over there as well on yours. So
yep.
If you want some of that, go get them.
Yep. Yeah, my ex has no clue what the hell I'm doing, and that's better off that way. So, all right. Love you guys. We will see you guys next week. And until then, let's go racing. Go Army, beat Navy, and
go Navy.
let it ride.